It's your boy Chips Ahoy, and welcome back, guys, to another episode here on Hypixel Skyblock. Guys, we already have cocoa beans and cactus past tier 20, plus now we have pumpkins past tier 20, along with melons and sugarcane and netherwort. Anyway, now since I have everything at a decent spot and I've hit garden level 11, I was going to do a bunch of testing to figure out what crop would be best kind of for money and to find all of the rates for the collection on all the crops and how long it would take to get certain milestones and show you guys all that beautiful information. But I log on, my garden gets reset, and now crops up high aren't getting replanted, and the build limit has decreased. We're not talking like a small decrease though. This was the old build limit, as you can see over there, and all the way down here, this little tower is the new build height. It is exactly 10 blocks from bedrock to height limit. I can build sideways, I cannot build on top. 10 blocks of height to work with. That gives us approximately room for just 3 levels to these farms. 1, 2, 3. Obviously, this is a huge nerf to farming because it's going to be way harder to have infinite farms on your island, and you're going to need to expand and open tons more plots as well to be able to have infinite farms. And I'm not going to lie, I'm really worried about cactus, but mostly I'm really worried about mushrooms. Before, you basically needed like 5 full plots of this stuff to have infinite. With this new height limit, I don't even know if that's going to be possible. Anyway, there is a forum post about it because it is a bit of an update or a tweak to the garden update. So I want to go check it out and give you guys my thoughts as I first go through it. This is the post from yesterday telling everybody the build height limit would change. So they addressed it and said that it was going from 50 to 10. It's like such a massive difference. So 10 blocks total now, but it's because it takes an incredible amount of space on the database. You know, as players, we really can't argue about this because that's totally understandable. For me, the hard thing is really that islands are kind of useless now. Some minions, some storage, but because farms are moved to the garden, in my opinion, there's tons of wasted space there. Anyway, they talk about what they want to see farming like, the specifics to how the build limit's going to change, and then we get to the interesting stuff. Crop growth speed is increasing. They have to reduce the height, but they're trying to still make it possible for players to have infinite farms. And this is kind of one of the ways they're doing it, and it's quite the buff. It means less TP pads, less overall layers for players to build, so you'll be able to build farms actually faster. And they do a good job of addressing the specifics. There's netherwort that they need to take a look at, and what I was most worried about is mushrooms. With only 10 blocks of building space, it is going to be almost impossible to have a fully infinite mushroom farm on the garden. And it's not as easy as just increasing the growth rate because mushrooms actually spread instead of growing. So although they're not able to patch it or fix it right now, I think it leaves a lot of doors open. I'd love to see something totally unique happen to mushrooms, and I think I'll touch on that a little bit more later when I'm on my island. Anyway, I'm a huge fan of crop growing speed, and it really does a good job of almost canceling out the nerf of the build height, and it gives a lot more value to upgrading your garden level quicker as well. They also took a look at unlocking plots and are thinking about composter upgrades. That's pretty cool. And if we're thinking that the growth speed cancels out the issue of the height limit, then this is just free farming fortune that they're tacking on here. Of course, this initially looks like it sucks, especially because of the build height limit and how that's the first thing on this page and really the name behind this patch. And we're gonna have to test stuff out, but looking at the specifics here, I'm not gonna lie, this gets me even more excited to be farming. Increased fortune, increased growth speed, possibly more AFKable farms because of this. Count me in. Then we can go ahead and look at the newer thing that's just dropped, Skyblock patch notes. Let's read about what just happened. Essentially, there are just a lot of bland fixes, but I would point out that they reduced the farming XP and the copper rewards from visitors. That's kind of tough. And then everything else we already know about, all the build height changes. They did figure out a way to fix netherwort and mushroom is no longer capped by the amount of mushrooms around them. But as I said before, the new farming armor grants more farming fortune, which is just amazing. That's more money per hour. And then in regards to the crop growth, it does still say coming soon, so that has not been increased yet. And so here we go. I just farmed through 6 lanes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this first one is almost fully regrown at this point. So when the crop growth does get increased, I definitely don't imagine you need any more than 6, so that's actually really cool. Plus, adding 1 or 2 more lanes to something like that wouldn't even be terribly difficult. As you can see, I'm at Queso's Island right now, and he's already got a setup with a more condensed farm. As some of these top farmers like him, Melon, Bank, and others continue to test new design layouts, I'm sure we'll quickly figure out the best way to build farms with this new patch, and I'll try to get a guide out ASAP. But this really just looks at carrots, potatoes, and wheat, maybe netherwort too. So let's head back to my garden and take a look at these other crops. Next up, we've got melons and pumpkins. I'm sure the Hypixel team has already thought of this, but I'm just worried that the crop regrowth has to do with stems growing and not melons and pumpkins appearing from those stems. On these types of farms here though, where you just strafe right or left and can hit 3 blocks at a time, you do walk pretty slowly, and they already reappear pretty quickly, so I'm really not worried about these guys. I'm also not too worried about cocoa beans. The farm is extremely thin, and it doesn't take a lot to have an infinite, but where some worry does lie is with cactus and sugarcane. Both of these farms right here are already massive and barely infinite. These farms, along with mushrooms, which I'll get to next, take up a lot of time because you run really quickly through them. I think your speed is going to be like 260, 270 with cane, and obviously max 400 or so with cactus. So I do think these will start taking up a lot more space in the next adaptation of garden designs. And finally, let's talk mushrooms. Currently, you can have about 3 layers of this, and it's actually a farm that's going to be extremely difficult to make any more compact because you have to stand in the middle of it. So I do appreciate the gesture of removing the cap on mushroom growth. And this is probably bigger than you might realize at first because now lanes can be built closer together. They're not forced apart by the vanilla Minecraft mushroom spreading rules. But mushrooms are still going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to have infinite with this new build limit. Maybe Hypixel could increase the hitbox of a mushroom so that it could be farmed a different way. Maybe they could increase the spreading rate. Or maybe it is infinite at this height right now. Nobody's really checked yet. But anyway, mushroom farms are going to change now. So I'm definitely excited for all of that and for what's to come here. Anyway, guys, overall, I think at initial glance, this update is a nerf, but it really balances out, and there might even be more perks and buffs than nerfs. Obviously, the big one standing out being more farming fortune, because that'll just lead to more money from farms and faster collection, so you'll max out the garden quicker and stuff like that. As I mentioned before, though, I am hoping to post another farm building guide as soon as crop regrowth rates are finalized, and I can figure out the most efficient way to have your farms. But anyway, that is going to do it for today. I hope you all did enjoy it. If you did, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Let me know what you think of this patch down below, and think twice about it. Don't just hate because of the height change. Anyway, once again, I'll see you on the next one. Adios and goodbye.